We're going to look at three types of proteins that are all reliant on a specific structure, so protein structure, in order for them to be able to complete a certain function inside of the cells of an organism. The first one, and one of the most important ones we talk about a lot in biology, is an enzyme. Now, enzymes are proteins that will have a certain structure. So we might have an enzyme that looks like this, in order to be able to bind in a complementary manner to something called a substrate. Now, enzymes usually play a big role in speeding up reactions, and they do this by binding to substrates and breaking them down, or binding to substrates and joining them together. So the folding of an enzyme is crucial in order to create a specific site with a certain shape that will fit a substrate, so they can act upon them and play out their particular role. So that's one type of protein reliant on structure and folding. The second type of protein we're going to look at is, or the second combination, I guess we could say, is hormones and receptors. So I'll draw a quick little membrane, something like this. And hormone and receptor proteins can both be extremely reliant on structure in order to join together. So we have here a cell membrane. I'm going to draw, let's do it like that. I'm going to draw a receptor protein here. So this is going to be our receptor protein. And what you'll notice is I've drawn a little notch here. I'll get rid of this arrow in a second, but I've drawn a little notch there, which is going to be a site that is going to be binded to by a hormone. So a receptor protein is reliant on a particular structure in order for that site to be made in a shape like it is, because another protein such as a hormone needs to come in and bind to it. So without the right structuring, that hormone protein is going to be unable to bind to a receptor, which is another type of protein, and then we won't get a particular outcome in the cell. So that hormone needs a certain shape to bind to the certain site with a complementary shape on the receptor, so that then we can see some sort of action be stimulated inside of the cell. We might get a chemical released or something like that, and the cell might grow or do a number of different things because of that activity. So I'll label those there as well. So we've got, we'll call this hormones and receptors. They kind of work together. Hormones aren't always proteins. There are different types of hormones, but hormones can be proteins. The third type of protein I want to touch upon is antibodies. Now, antibodies are these structures that are able to bind to antigens, which are other structures on the outside of pathogens, so things which might try and damage us and harm our body. Antibodies bind to these particular antigens and then neutralize them, so neutralize harmful things like viruses, bacteria that might be entering into our cells, entering into our body and trying to infect our body and infect our cells. So antibodies are a little bit harder to draw, but I'll give it a crack. So antibodies might look a little something like that. So antibodies could be a combination of 1, 2, 3, 4 polypeptides, and they've got on them these particular sites, like so. Now these sites, because of their specific folding, are going to be a certain shape, and they're going to be specific to something called antigens. So these antigens will be sticking out like so from harmful bacteria that might be trying to infect our body, and the antibodies can come along and they can lock onto and grab onto these antigens and then be able to neutralize the harmful cells inside of our body. So those are three different protein types. We've got enzymes, we've got antibodies, and then we've got hormones and receptors, which kind of work together. And all of them are dependent, and all their functions inside of the body of an organism are dependent on their protein folding and protein structuring.